Hello there. It's our last full day of our Caribbean vacation. We started the morning with room service and had a quick breakfast on the balcony at sunrise, around 7 a.m. The Key West cruise terminal was undergoing repair, so the ship docked at the naval station. Unfortunately, we had to go through customs on the ship because Key West was our first port back in the U.S. from international waters. We headed down to the dining room, which was our station for customs. It took a couple of hours to pass customs and was not our favorite way to start the last full day of vacation. But we got it done and disembarked the ship for sightseeing in Key West. Key West, the southernmost island in the Florida Keys, is closer to Cuba than to Miami. It's known for the southernmost public point in Florida, water sports, nightlife, beaches, coral reef snorkeling, historic sites, and its pastel conch-style houses. It has a diverse cultural and natural history starting in the 1820s when early settlers saw opportunity to make their fortune on a 2-by-4-mile island. We disembarked the ship and grabbed a conch train to historic downtown, taking in sights of the island, including a view of our own ship. As the train came to a stop, we found ourselves at the end of Duval Street, near Mallory Square in the historic district. We meandered down Duval Street, filled with vendors, restaurants, and people. We didn't have an agenda planned, other than to enjoy ourselves. We stumbled on a Hard Rock Cafe and stopped in, grabbed a pin for Dad's collection, and of course, a quick selfie. As we walked along, we saw St. Paul's Church. Established in 1832, it's the oldest church in South Florida. The concrete building itself is only 100 years old, having been rebuilt after several disasters. Beautiful royal poinciana trees stretch in front of the church and its rectory next door, which is distinctly conch style. We didn't have much time to tour the area since we also had to pack later, so we moved one street south to Whitehead Street for the Key West Lighthouse, foregoing other popular attractions such as the Custom House and Ernest Hemingway House, just across the street from the lighthouse. Due to time constraints, we didn't want to wait in lines. The lighthouse self-tour was a welcome, low-key experience, and a pleasant surprise. Dave, with his aversion to heights, was not interested in climbing to the top of the lighthouse, of course, so he checked out the oil house, and I ventured up the 88 steps on my own to the top. The first lighthouse was constructed in 1825. It was washed out to sea by the hurricane of 1846. The current structure was then set half a mile inland and first lit in 1848. At the top of the lighthouse, I was rewarded with sweeping views of the island, including our distant cruise ship. There were helpful plaques on the platform with information on many points of interest around the island. I didn't stay to read them because the viewing platform was quite small and the railing felt barely there. I admit it made me a little uneasy looking directly down as I saw how small Dave looked from way up there. I started back downstairs to meet Dave, and then we headed for the keeper's quarters across the lawn. The keeper's quarters were added in 1887, 39 years after the current lighthouse was erected. We learned a ton of information as provided by the Key West Historical Society. It was packed with history, pictures, and items from days long gone. And it was air-conditioned, a welcome relief from the heat and humidity outside. In 1823, the U.S. Navy established a base in Key West and needed a warning beacon to reduce shipwrecks on the dangerous hazards surrounding the island. By the mid-1800s, there was an average of a wreck per week. The first lighthouse keeper was Michael Maberty, who first lit the flame of the lighthouse in January 1826. Only 6 years in, Michael died of yellow fever, and his wife Barbara became head keeper. It was nearly unheard of for a woman to be keeper in the 19th century, and she did it at the age of 50 while raising 6 kids alone. As time went on, members of the Maberty family served as keepers of the lighthouse for over 85 years. During that time, a Fresnel lens was installed. We were intrigued by this invention. The Fresnel lens is an interesting subject on its own, having doubled the distance light could be seen, and was considered an important improvement at the time. The Key West Lighthouse underwent a number of upgrades over the years, including the installation of a third-order Fresnel lens, an extension to the tower which allowed the light to be seen from a greater distance, the addition of keepers' quarters, and the electrification of the light. In 1969, the U.S. Coast Guard decommissioned the Key West Lighthouse, since there was no longer a need for a full-time keeper due to technological advances. Today, this Sentinel of the Seas stands as a museum dedicated to Key West's maritime heritage and to the men and women who bravely kept the light burning through the threats of war and weather. As we exited, I thought of the incredible people and history we learned about, and the tenacity and ingenuity of the human spirit. We grabbed a quick pic with the lighthouse and exited through a room showcasing Fresnel lenses up close. We stayed a few minutes to look. It was nice to see one just inches away. We purchased a magnet, as is our custom, to mark the places we've seen, and we were off to see more. That's a church? We passed by this charming stone church built in the early 1900s, now a renovated living and commercial space. It has 14-inch thick solid walls made of Florida keystone. One thing I liked besides its striking appeal is that this Florida coral keystone retains no heat and is always cool to the touch. After a leisurely walk, we found ourselves at the southernmost public point of the continental U.S. We grabbed a quick pic with the buoy from a distance, not wanting to wait in line to get up close and personal. As we headed back towards the train stop, we passed the lighthouse and Ernest Hemingway House again, walking on U.S. Route 1. Ernest Hemingway, Tennessee Williams, Robert Frost, and Jimmy Buffett, to name a few, called Key West home. We walked through these historic streets, living in the moment of Key West's laid-back lifestyle. We stopped for a photo op with a last mile marker for U.S. Route 1, the longest north-south road in the U.S. We passed by the Cosgrove House with its century-old banyan tree, the Grand Audubon House with its tropical gardens, the Key West Museum of Art and History at the Custom House, and the Lookout Tower from the Shipwreck Museum in Mallory Square.
Next stop in about 10 minutes, stop D, Flagler Station.
Once back on the conch train, we enjoyed the breeze and pretty landscape as we made our way back to the ship. We left the quaint island of Key West behind as we finished packing and set out our luggage for pickup. We entered the beautiful Silhouette dining room for one last dinner on board, trying to savor every moment of the great service and delicious food. After dinner, we had to make one last stop at the Ensemble Lounge to hear Sophie and Danny of Drift and enjoy a nightcap as we reflected on our day in Key West.